My mom tried to steal my inheritance, but my best friend was her lover's nephew. Hey Reddit, this story feels like something out of a soap opera. But here it is, straight from the mess that is my life. Grab some popcorn because this one's long and twisted. A bit of backstory first. I, 25M, grew up in a pretty stable family. My dad was a businessman who did well for himself, and my mom was a stay-at-home parent who kept everything running smoothly. We weren't mega rich, but we were comfortable. When my dad passed away suddenly from a heart attack when I was 18, it was devastating. But at least he left behind a detailed will that ensured I'd be financially secure once I turned 25. That inheritance was supposed to be my safety net, a way to start my own business, or at least not worry about bills while I got my life together. My mom was appointed the executor of the estate until I came of age. At the time, I had no reason to suspect she'd do anything shady. She was grieving, and so was I. After Dad's death, our relationship became a bit strained, though I chalked it up to the fact that we were both trying to cope in our own ways. She seemed distant, preoccupied. Over the years, I noticed her spending more time away from home. She'd go on vacations with her friends or stay out late for wine nights with people I never met. I didn't question it much, thinking she deserved to enjoy herself after everything. As for me, I stayed focused on school, worked a couple of part-time jobs, and lived a pretty quiet life. My best friend Alex, 26M, and I remained close throughout all of this. We've known each other since elementary school, and he's like a brother to me. We went through high school, college, and all the typical milestones together. He's been a constant in my life, someone I could always count on. I had no idea that our lives were about to intersect in the most unexpected way. Fast forward to earlier this year. I turned 25, and my inheritance was supposed to be transferred over to me. I thought the process would be smooth since everything had been laid out in my dad's will. But as the months dragged on, I realized something was wrong. The lawyer handling the estate kept giving me excuses, something about delays in probate, more paperwork needed, that sort of thing. I was starting to get frustrated. Then one night, Alex and I were hanging out, doing what we usually do, watching movies and having a few beers. Out of nowhere, Alex starts telling me about some drama going on in his extended family. Apparently, his uncle Greg, 45M, had been having an affair with an older woman for the past year or so. It was causing all sorts of tension because Greg was married, and his wife had started to suspect something was up. We laughed about it because, well, it seemed like your typical midlife crisis kind of drama. Alex mentioned that Greg was kind of a sleazeball anyway, always getting into shady business deals and racking up debt. Then, almost as an afterthought, he pulls out his phone and shows me a picture of Greg with the woman he'd been seeing. That I remember that moment like it was in slow motion. I glanced at the photo, and my heart stopped. The woman standing next to Greg, smiling like they didn't have a care in the world, was my mom. My actual, real-life mom. I froze, trying to process what I was seeing. My mind started racing, trying to come up with some kind of explanation that made sense. Maybe it was just a coincidence? Maybe she was friends with Greg and this was totally innocent? But the more I thought about it, the less sense that made. My mom had been distant, going on random trips, and acting weird for months. It all started to add up in the worst possible way. I didn't say anything to Alex right away. I didn't know how. I just sat there, staring at that photo while pretending everything was fine. But inside, I was freaking out. Was my mom having an affair? And if so, with Alex's uncle of all people? The thought made me sick. The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I decided I needed to get to the bottom of things. First, I confronted my mom. I didn't want to believe it was true, so I tried to be as calm as possible. I casually asked her if she knew anyone named Greg. She hesitated for a split second before telling me no. That hesitation was all I needed to confirm my suspicions. Something was definitely up, and I was determined to find out what. I started digging into the financial records of my dad's estate. It wasn't easy since my mom had control of most of it, but I managed to get access to some old account statements. What I found shocked me. Large sums of money had been quietly transferred from the estate account into one of my mom's personal accounts over the past few months, right around the time I was supposed to be getting my inheritance. I felt sick to my stomach. It wasn't just an affair. She was stealing from me. My own mother, the woman who had raised me, was siphoning off my inheritance and lying to my face. But why? And where was the money going? I wasn't going to let her get away with it, so I decided to hire a private investigator. If she was hiding something, I wanted concrete proof before I confronted her again. The investigator worked fast. Within a week, he uncovered the truth. My mom had been funneling money into a joint account she shared with Greg, and the two of them were planning to run away together. Greg, it turns out, was in deep financial trouble, massive debts, failed business ventures, the works. He saw my mom as his golden ticket out, and she was too wrapped up in their affair to see it. The worst part? They were planning to drain the rest of the estate before I even noticed. I was furious. Hurt didn't even begin to cover it. My mom, who had always been my rock, had not only betrayed my dad's memory but was trying to steal my future. 2. I confronted her again, this time with the evidence. I'll never forget the look on her face when she realized I knew everything. She broke down, crying, begging for forgiveness. She said she'd been lost since Dad died, that Greg had manipulated her, that she didn't know how to get out of it. But her excuses didn't matter to me anymore. She had made her choices. I cut her off completely. I froze the estate accounts before she could take another cent and hired a lawyer to handle everything from there. My inheritance, thankfully, is safe now. But my relationship with my mom, that's gone. I haven't spoken to her in months, and I don't know if I ever will again. As for Alex, he was just as shocked as I was. His family had no idea what Greg had been up to, and now they're dealing with their own fallout from all this. It's been a mess for both of us. So yeah, that's the story of how my mom tried to steal my inheritance and run off with my best friend's uncle, but got caught because of one random photo. Life is weird, man. Update. Hey Reddit, it's been a few months since I posted about the whole situation with my mom, Greg, my best friend Alex's uncle, and my inheritance. I never expected the story to blow up the way it did, and honestly, I wasn't sure if I'd post again, but a lot has happened since then. I figured it was time to give you all an update. After I froze the estate accounts and confronted my mom, I hired a lawyer to untangle the mess she had made. I was terrified that more money had been siphoned off than I originally thought, and it turns out I was right to be worried. Upon digging deeper, we found that my mom had funneled even more money than I initially discovered, well into the six figures. She had been slowly bleeding the estate dry over the past year, and Greg was right there along for the ride. Luckily, we caught it before things got worse, but it was a close call. I had to take legal action against my own mother, which was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. There was no going back after that. We've since gone through mediation, and she's been forced to pay back what she took, though not all at once, obviously. Greg, on the other hand, is in the wind. After everything blew up, he disappeared. From what I've heard through Alex, Greg skipped town, leaving his wife, now ex-wife, with all his debts. It seems like this wasn't the first time he pulled a stunt like this, but it's the first time he got caught. So, for now, Greg's out of the picture. A lot of you asked if I would ever forgive my mom. Honestly, I don't know if that's possible. I did agree to meet with her after mediation because she kept insisting she wanted to explain herself. We met at a coffee shop and she looked terrible. I don't say that to be mean. It was just obvious that this whole situation had taken a toll on her. She started crying before we even sat down. She said everything you'd expect. How sorry she was, how she never meant to hurt me, how she let herself get wrapped up in Greg's manipulation. She said that after Dad died, she felt empty, and Greg made her feel alive again. That's why she made all those horrible decisions. But the thing is, none of her explanations really changed how I felt. I get that she was struggling, but to betray me, to steal from me after everything Dad had done to make sure we were both taken care of, it's unforgivable. I told her that I wasn't ready to forgive her and that I didn't know if I ever would be. I said that I needed time and space, and I meant it. Since that meeting, we haven't spoken again. She sent a few texts apologizing, but I haven't responded. I don't know when or if I will. Maybe in the future I'll be able to let some of the anger go, but right now I can't. It's like I'm grieving not just for my dad, but for the mom I thought I had and lost too. One of the most common questions I got was how this affected my friendship with Alex. Honestly, I'm really grateful to have him in my life. He's been nothing but supportive since this whole thing blew up. When I first told him everything, he was shocked and super apologetic about his uncle being involved. Obviously, none of this was his fault, but I think he felt guilty just by association. Alex has since distanced himself from Greg's side of the family. After Greg ran off, it came out that he'd been conning multiple people, and his reputation is trashed. Alex's mom, Greg's sister, has been pretty devastated by the whole thing, but at least their immediate family didn't get caught up in any of Greg's schemes. Alex and I are still as close as ever, if not closer. He's been helping me deal with the emotional fallout of all this. And honestly, I don't know what I'd do without him. We've even joked that if it weren't for his random comment about Greg's affair, I might have never known until it was too late. It's wild how things worked out, but I'm grateful it came to light before any more damage was done. Now that the inheritance is safe and my mom is out of the picture for the time being, I'm trying to focus on moving forward. I've started the process of investing the money wisely, and I'm considering launching the business I've always dreamed of starting. It's been a weird, emotional few months, but I'm slowly getting back on track. One of the unexpected positives from all of this is that I've been reconnecting with my dad's side of the family. After he passed, I drifted away from them a bit, partly because I was so focused on taking care of my mom. Now, I've realized how much I need their support, and it's been good to have them back in my life. I'm still processing everything that's happened. It's hard to fully comprehend how your life can change so drastically in such a short time. One moment I was excited about finally getting my inheritance and starting the next chapter of my life, and the next, I was embroiled in legal battles and family drama I never saw coming. To anyone reading this who's going through their own family drama or betrayal, I don't really have any great advice. It sucks. It hurts more than I can put into words. But I guess all you can do is move forward, one day at a time, and try not to let the bad stuff define you. Thanks for all the support and messages after my original post. It meant a lot during a really dark time. I'll try to keep you all updated if anything major changes, but for now, I'm just focused on rebuilding and figuring out what my life looks like without the people I thought I could trust most. Final update. Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd be back here with another update, but life has a way of surprising you, usually in the worst possible ways. Since my last post, things have spiraled so far out of control that it feels like I'm living in some kind of twisted thriller. This update is long, but I need to get it all out. So here we go. Let's start with Alex and the whole situation with his uncle Greg. After we found out Greg had a secret family, things blew up in ways I couldn't have predicted. Alex's distant cousin stumbled upon some documents while doing genealogy research for a family tree project. They discovered that Greg had been married not just to his ex-wife, the one who divorced him after the affair with my mom came to light, but to another woman in a neighboring state. Not only that, but Greg had 2 kids with this woman, and they had been living a completely separate life for years. This wasn't just a case of a guy stepping out on his wife. Greg had essentially built 2 lives. One with his official family that everyone knew about, and another with this secret wife and children. He'd been bouncing between the two, using shady business deals, stolen money, and manipulation to keep both households afloat. When Alex found out, he was devastated. Not only had his uncle wrecked his immediate family by cheating on his wife with my mom, but now they were learning that Greg had been living a lie on an entirely different level. It was like a bomb had gone off in his family. Alex's mom, Greg's sister, was in shock. She had no idea what her brother had been up to, and now her trust in him was completely shattered. Greg's kids from his official family were also blindsided. They had no idea their dad had been living a double life. Worse yet, the secret wife had been financially dependent on Greg for years. When he vanished after my mom's scheme blew up, she and her kids were left with nothing. They didn't know why he disappeared or where he went. Greg had told them he was working on a big deal out of town and would be back soon. But obviously, that was just another lie. Now, she's stuck dealing with his debts and trying to figure out how to support her kids, while Greg is nowhere to be found. I can't say I was surprised that Greg was capable of something like this, but the scale of his deceit was staggering. The whole thing left Alex feeling gutted. His family was wrecked, And on top of that, he was watching me deal with my mom's betrayal. It was like we were both trapped in parallel nightmares. Speaking of my mom, after my last post, she had been trying really hard to make amends. She kept texting me, apologizing over and over, saying she was manipulated by Greg and didn't know how to get out of the mess she created. For a while, I ignored her. I just couldn't handle the idea of her trying to worm her way back into my life after everything she had done. Stealing my inheritance, lying, betraying my dad's memory, and wrecking whatever trust we had left. But after a few weeks of persistent texts and voicemails, I started to feel conflicted. Part of me wanted to shut her out forever, but another part of me, the part that missed having a mom even after all this, wondered if maybe she really was sorry. Maybe she had realized how far she had fallen and wanted to make things right. I wasn't ready to forgive her, but I thought it might be possible to at least start over. Foolish, right? We started meeting for coffee, just short, awkward meetings where she'd try to talk about her guilt and how much she regretted everything. It was weird and I wasn't comfortable, but she seemed genuine, or at least I wanted to believe she was. She told me she was going to therapy and working on herself. She even said she wanted to pay me back faster than the court ordered. I should have seen the warning signs. Her behavior seemed too eager, too desperate, but I chalked it up to guilt. After all, she had thrown her life away for Greg, and now she was alone, disgraced, and in debt. I thought maybe this was her way of trying to rebuild from the ashes. Then came the dinner invitation. She asked me to come over to her house for a home-cooked meal, saying it was part of her effort to make things right. It felt like a big step, but after weeks of cautiously letting her back in, I accepted. I arrived at my mom's house that night feeling a little hopeful, but still guarded. We made small talk while she cooked. Everything seemed normal enough. The food smelled good, and she was acting more relaxed than I'd seen her in months. It felt like we were finally moving forward, putting the past behind us. About halfway through dinner, though, I started feeling off. At first, it was just a bit of nausea, but then it got worse. Fast. My head was spinning, my vision blurred, and I could barely keep myself upright. I tried to push the plate away, thinking maybe I was just sick or that something in the food didn't agree with me. But it wasn't just food poisoning, it was something much more sinister. I got up from the table, trying to make it to the bathroom, but I barely made it halfway down the hall before everything went dark. Before I passed out, I managed to send a text to Alex. It was short and incoherent, but I think it just said something like, "Help, Mom." That was all I could get out. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in the hospital. When I opened my eyes, Alex was sitting next to me, looking terrified. He told me that when he got my text, he rushed over to my mom's house and found me unconscious on the floor. He immediately called 911, and I was rushed to the ER. The doctors ran tests and found that I had been poisoned. The substance was strong enough that if Alex hadn't shown up when he did, I might not have made it. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. My mom had tried to end me. When the police searched my mom's house, they found the poison hidden in a drawer in her bedroom. It wasn't some over-the-counter stuff either. It was a toxic substance that could easily be lethal in the right dose. My mom had planned this. She'd lured me into her home under the pretense of making amends, and then she'd poisoned my dinner. The motive? Money, of course. She still wanted my inheritance. Despite everything, despite the legal battle and the mediation and the supposed apologies, she had never let go of her greed. She saw me as nothing more than an obstacle to the money she thought she deserved. And if that meant killing her own son, she was willing to do it. My mom was arrested that same night, and now she's facing charges for attempted murder. I can't even begin to explain what it feels like to know that my own mother, someone I once trusted, tried to kill me. It's like I've been living in a nightmare, and there's no waking up from it. I've been talking to lawyers and the police constantly since the incident. I had to give statements, go over the timeline of events, and relive that night over and over. Each time I talk about it, it feels more surreal. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who had to look over my shoulder around my own family. But here we are. Legally, my inheritance is safe now. I've locked down every account, and I've hired more financial advisors and security than I ever thought I'd need. My mom's out of my life for good, And this time, there's no coming back. She'll be in prison, and even if she ever gets out, I won't be there. Alex has been my rock through all of this. He's been by my side the entire time, dealing with his own family's fallout from Greg's lies and supporting me through this nightmare. He was the one who saved me that night, and I'll never be able to repay him for that. We've been through so much together, and our friendship has only gotten stronger. As for Greg, we still don't know where he is. After the whole secret family thing came to light, he vanished completely. Alex's family has been trying to figure out what happened to him, but there's been no sign of him since he fled town. Part of me wonders if he'll ever resurface or if he's just gone for good, leaving nothing but destruction in his wake. I'm still processing everything. It feels like my entire world has been turned upside down. My mom tried to kill me. Alex's family is shattered. Greg is a ghost with a trail of lies and ruined lives behind him. And I'm left here trying to make sense of it all. I've started therapy to deal with the trauma. It's slow progress, but I know I need it. Trust is going to be a huge issue for me moving forward, and I'm not sure when or if I'll ever be able to fully trust anyone again. But for now, I'm focused on healing, on taking it one day at a time, and on protecting myself from anyone who tries to take advantage of me again. Thanks to everyone who's followed my story and offered advice and support. It means more than you know. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. I'm done letting people like my mom and Greg control my life. I'm moving forward, even if it's slow, and I'll never let anyone take from me again.